Here's the story of 2020. It was a year for us to live in sync.
So many things that need our understanding. It's time for us to think. It's the story of fellow humans who were busy with lives of their own, but they thought of bringing us together, and we can watch from home. We can all make this world much better. It's about what we're willing to confront. So sit back and enjoy the conversation of these rainbow warriors called the Queer Bunch. The Queer Bunch. The Queer Bunch. It's a great day to watch the Queer Bunch.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another installment of the Queer Bunch. And we've got an exciting topic for you this round. But before we get to that, let's see who we have with us. I know we've got Blxck Cxsper. Blxck Cxsper, say hello.
How y'all doing? I mean, I'm saying how y'all doing, but people can't really answer, so.
Imagine if we could actually hear all the audience say, "We're doing okay."
Yeah, but then imagine they're like, oh, actually, I'm doing really bad. And you're like, okay,
Oh yeah, what you?
so I hope you're doing good. That's better because then you don't have to reply. So I hope everybody's doing good. And if you're not doing good, I hope by the end of this episode, you'll be doing good. So.
Oh, that's cute. What are you working on? Actually, I haven't. I want to say I haven't talked to you for a while, but that'd be a lie.
I actually just finished my next album. Which is going to drop. I'm thinking, I don't know, I have to talk to distribution about it, but I'm thinking Valentine's Day because I would make a cute little love release. And yeah, other than that, I'm directing the Transmass Choir, and we have a show on November 23rd in Montreal if anybody's in Montreal and is interested. And yeah, other than that, you know, just working on a bunch of stuff and not finishing enough. Yeah.
Sounds like my life. We also have Kalyssa with us. Kalyssa, say hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Again, you can't respond back, just like that Blxck Cxsper said, but you know, we just hope that you are doing okay and all is well and everyone's blessed.
And of course, we have Mr. Hashem with us. Antoine, say hello.
Hey. Thank you, everyone. So hi, and I guess a few things that we're working on that I can report on. We're working on a song with a number of artists that are going to be released for the holidays. That's going to be a fundraiser for children struggling with wars around the world. So that's right now is my big passion project that we're working on. And we have a music festival again that we're doing in Toronto in the Queer Village. But this is going to be Halloween. So excited about working with a number of queer artists on that. And what else? Recording a lot of songs, and the upcoming album has been pushed now from 2024 to spring 2025, just because I'm busy with so many other things.
You're always busy with everything.
I try.
And I'm Kenny. I'm the founder of the LGBTQ Creative Network. If you are out there and you are an artist and you need some support, please reach out. I'd love to know about you.
He does. He's very curious. He's got a curious mind.
Curious about your art and the work that you're creating, and you as a human as well.
You do. I think you do. That's what I know that. Otherwise, why would you be doing what you're doing? You do like talking to people. You like knowing things. You like that curiosity.
I love people's stories because everybody has a story to share, and exactly. You learn so much from other people's stories. You learn about them, you learn about things that are happening around the world and in different places, but you also learn about yourself, especially about the reaction.
That's brilliant. That's a brilliant observation. I would say, like when I first started being a talk show host at 11 years ago on the couch, and this recently, I didn't know what's going to attract me to it, but the more I listened to people, the more I got more interested in knowing more about people. That became the highlight of doing a show. is
I
getting
think
to know
that,
people. Yeah.
I mean, even if you think about who's on here tonight, there's so much to learn from each of us, right? I've learned so much just from listening to Blxck Cxsper.
There you go. Me too.
All right, so we have quite the topic to jump into tonight. And before we get into it, I will say the topic is the fame monster. Are we ever really ready for it? And this comes on the heels of a conversation. So let's break it down. We all know that Chapel Roan has been having great success out there, and good on her. And I think that there's a lot of artists who would like to be able to kind of experience that level of success. But what's come with it is she's a very outspoken artist who is really kind of setting boundaries around what is appropriate in terms of like interaction with fans, also within the industry. She's taking shots at the industry and how they are rolling things out. And it's really kind of brought up a bit of a conversation about how much is too much. Are people ever ready for it? Is the backlash she's experiencing from kind of setting these boundaries warranted, not warranted? It's not really for me to say, but it's really interesting to discuss. And that is what we're going to be discussing throughout this episode.
We're gonna take a break first. Is that what we're doing?
Sure.
I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
You
Yeah.
usually
break
run
already?
with it, sir. You usually run with it. Welcome back to the Queer Bunch, everyone. And we are discussing, as we have said, the fame monster. Are we ever really ready for it? Confession time, I'm not famous. I have not experienced that level of fame at all. But I think in our own lives, we can kind of relate in certain ways how busy we get when you're very much in demand. If you're really overextending yourself, sometimes you do have to put boundaries in place. But when you're in the spotlight at that level, it becomes almost an expectation that you should be making yourself available. Is that a good expectation? Probably not. Is it something that's kind of happened? For sure it has. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about when you get to that level, what is the expectation? What is the right call on things?
That's good.
Have you folks had a chance to kind of like sink in and think about the what's happening out there in the world and some of the stuff with Chapel Roan? And if this is not necessarily a Chapel Roan
Episode.
conversation, this is about what's happening to her and how she's responding and thinking about other artists.
I use the background to kind of get me thinking about this. And I think when you said earlier, what's too much? This probably would be too much for me. Like if I'm hounded like this every time I leave home, I don't know. I don't know. But I mean, we all aspire to success, but I don't know how that will break me if this is what I'm dealing with.
Cxsper, you have had a specific kind of level of success in your life, not only as a musician, but as an activist, a trans activist. And I'm sure that you've felt both the positive and negative repercussions of putting yourself out there and making yourself available, and then all of a sudden becoming almost, and I may be putting words in your mouth, but almost a go-to person in your own world, your own industry area for trans activism, but also trans musicians.
It's more like, it's even more than that, like, because in 2018 there was this very racist play in Quebec where, long story short, it was a play about slaves, and they had white people dressed up as black people picking cotton in the play.
Oh,
Very,
what?
just,
What?
that's just the tip of the iceberg. There was so
Okay.
much more in that play that was very problematic.
Okay.
Together by a very famous playwright called Robert Lepage. So he's not just famous, he's like God, basically. Like nobody, it's Robert Lepage, like people like are ready to go like nobody has ever criticized the man, you know what I mean? Like he literally, everything he does, it's like, oh my god, he's such a genius. Like, you know, like he's that type of person in the francophone world, you know. And also a singer who's very popular in France. Like my mom was a fan. What? Fan because what's happening after. But basically, so yeah, they put together that play, and I organized the first protest against it. Okay, and the whole conversation around the play went viral around the world. It was one of the first cultural events in Quebec that went viral, like internationally. I'm talking the Roots talked about it, the New York Times, like it went very like all around the world, you know. And I became public enemy number one. You know what I mean? To the point where like I was invited at Tout le monde en parle, which is the most popular TV talk show in Quebec. Like it happens every Sunday. It's like everybody in Quebec watches it, you know. I was disinvited the day before, and that happened a lot with like the media, because whenever people would give me a chance to express myself, they would realize that I could express myself really well, and I had valid points. And so because it didn't fit their narrative, they would never let me speak. So what happened is that I became public enemy number one, and everybody was talking about me, but I didn't have a chance to say my piece. So I was receiving death threats. I had the alt-right that was with anonymous accounts online that they were commenting like the frog emojis on everything I was posting, which means that they're basically like stalking you and stuff. I had people who had found my pre-transition pictures who were like, go back to your country. And I was like, you're supposed to want, I mean, Quebec people, you're trying to be French. Technically, let's go back together then. Yeah. I don't know, but like, you know, it went very deep. Like it was scary. Like even like on dating site, I had people without like face profiles and like face pictures, like sending me messages like, oh, I know where you live now, I know who you are, no. Just because I had like, I kind of messed up. Like he's not untouchable anymore, but you know about Lepage, because like that show got canceled. Like it was a show in the Festival de Jazz, so they lost like hundreds of thousands of dollars because of this controversy. But yeah, so I think that was because I've been like known in my community to like, you know, like sometimes I've gotten recognized like in the streets of like New York and like other places and stuff by other trans people mostly. But like this was mainstream type of exposure, you know, like it was very mainstream, and it was very much like not a good type of exposure.
Just say you got your fame, but not the right kind of fame.
No, I got blacklisted blacklisted because it's like who was hiring me?
Oh God.
It's, you know what I mean?
Thanks for sharing. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
It does kind of it brings the question. It's kind of like you're standing up for something, you know, that is connected to you, and really why shouldn't you be allowed to? And it's so interesting because there's always going to be backlash, you know, from people, but it's crazy the way that we've kind of given the world this carte blanche attitude that please just revolt and retaliate in whatever kind of crazy way that you think that you should. And we've given people the ability, I think, to think that that's okay.
It was people who were like, I was going on their profile sometimes, and it was like men in their 50s who were like, you know, like I don't know how to say that in English, but like, you know, working at like basically high paying jobs, like behind the desk and stuff like that, like what we call cadre in French, you know. It's like people who are really well like situated in society, and I'm like, why are you hating on me? Like I already got no money. What do you want from me, you know? And it was like, I'm like half of your age. I don't understand this hatreds, you know. It was like I was not a human being anymore. And it was very difficult because at some point I was scared to leave my house, you know, like. But the other side, like I was on one hand, I was scared to leave my house, and on the other hand, I was like, okay, well, if I leave my house, the hatred is very much within Quebec. If somebody punches me, it goes viral around the world, and up, I have a career everywhere because when because that's also a thing is when you're a marginalized artist, or I feel like people love when you're like struggling in a way that's like
That's an interesting observation.
for them, you know. I don't know how to trauma porn, so yeah.
It goes back to that expression how we love to tear people down when they get a certain level of success.
Yeah, let's touch on that for sure too. Yeah, I think so. Kalyssa has been quiet.
Oh no, I just
You're
listening.
pondering.
Thank you for sharing that story. I think with any level of fame and success, first of all, success is something that we deem personally, whether there's different levels of it, obviously, right? And I think as a society over the many decades and years, we have this expectations of people that become famous, that they should just do this and do that, and there should be boundaries. So kudos to that artist that is setting the stage for that and standing up for herself or for themselves, and just to put those boundaries in place. Because if for whatever reason I ever went viral, I would want boundaries in place. I would not want to be followed.
Everybody showing up at your door,
Right.
knocking on your door.
I think we forget that people are still human, and that's what it needs to come back to at the end of the day. We all still feel the same way, whether we're famous or not. We all still have mental health issues. We have family issues, right? And I think that's forgotten when somebody blows up in the industry.
One of the things that I'm reading right now online on social media. So there's an image of Chapel Roan and talking about setting boundaries and saying you shouldn't be coming up to me and just expecting that I'm going to do a selfie with you and that kind of thing. And some of the comments underneath is kind of like, I guess people forget about who pays their bills. So that's kind of like one of the things that's out there. And, it's kind of like, everybody, you're all well and good until all of a sudden you're popular, then you're not good enough. Then we're not good enough for you, like the fans. And it's interesting when you read things like that, because it really does project a sense of entitlement almost on the fans or on the viewer of you should have access to somebody. And that is a very strange concept.
I don't know. Actually, that's the thing. Is it how strange is it? Because we created a world where being famous is a really fantastic thing, and it's really where everybody aspiring to be, especially in this day and age where everybody wants to be famous online. And then you forget about that. That comes with the fact that people are gonna want to know you, and the fans become obsessed. Like there are very obsessed fans and all that sort of stuff. So I think that's when I wrote that. Are we ever ready for it? Because you don't know what to expect after you become famous. I don't know.
What I can say is what I read from the link that you did send, there were 2 canceled shows, and this is what spun a lot. As an artist that has anxiety, that struggles with being in large spaces and places and absorbing the energy of others, I think, again, I book 99% of the time when I book myself in for performances, you know what it takes me to get out the door mentally? So imagine now being on that level of fame and having to be around thousands and thousands of people and having this expectation. And again, dealing with day-to-day life mental health. I think we fail to compile all these things in that these people are just human as well as we are. And so there should not be that sense of entitlement from these fans. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And they need to be put in their place. Just because I'm famous, doesn't give you the right to walk up to me. That's my personal space. I deserve that, just like you do. What's the difference in walking up to a stranger and wanting a picture? Then it's harassment, but it's okay because I'm famous?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Maybe because people expect that you're a celebrity, that means this is what you decided to do in your life, is to be famous. So it's a gloves off kind of thing. I'm just
it's going back
I'm trying to figure out where we have that mentality. I don't. I mean, if I see somebody well known that I love, that I admire in their outside life, if I feel that they're open and acknowledging that I can come up to them, but I would not assume that it's okay to come up to them unless I'm invited to come up to them. As much as I respect them and I would be dying to say hello, but I know that at the end of the day, because I met a lot of people and I've dealt with a lot of things, I know that at the end of the day, no matter how famous you are, at the end of the day, when the show is done, you can't wait to get out of your clothes and go home and sit on the couch like the rest of us.
I'm already thinking, once I'm done my performance, I'm like, when can I go home and just get in my pajamas and eat some food in front of the TV?
Yeah. So because of my knowledge of that, I understand that they are human. So which means that they're not they're not a commodity that I can have. But I don't think that that's how everybody thinks who are the crazy fans.
It's a culture that we are all contributing to, right? When I see some fans and I see some artists, I don't see artists anymore. I see cult leaders, some of them. And I'm thinking of...
Fair enough, actually. Yeah, some of them encourage that.
But I'm thinking of artists like Nicki Minaj, for example, who is like being accused of very horrific like things, with her and her husband are both being accused of horrific crimes. And whenever somebody criticizes them, she literally sends her fans after them. You know, yes. There's also, for example, Lil Nas X did something like similar, where a Black trans woman was calling him out because he was saying a lot of, he went on a rant where he was doing a lot of trans jokes, which were not well taken by the trans community for good reasons. And that Black trans woman called him out, and he sent his fans after her, you know? Taylor Swift does that. Like a lot of artists really like end up being like, and I'm thinking those, but then I'm thinking also like R. Kelly, P. Diddy, and all these men who have done horrible crimes, and a lot of people are going to excuse it or be like, oh, we should still listen to the music, we should separate the art from the artist and stuff like that. And I feel like as we need to like stop like looking at artists like they're amazing people who cannot do any wrong. Like we need to like people accountable, and we need to put them like, stop having a pedestal. Like it's an artist, it could be a dentist, I don't care, it's just a job, you know what I mean? And so,
but you know what you just said, Cxsper, if those, so that seems to me that there are artists who thrive on that, thrive on creating a cult of followers. And then you've got artists like Chappelle who's entering the industry, but she doesn't want that kind of cult leadership sort of thing.
Yeah. What I think what happened too is that I think Chappelle for some reason does not have a PR team. And I think a lot of artists do not understand that, like, once you get to a level, you're a business. You're no longer a person in the eyes of the public, which is something that, like I said, a culture that, like, we should break down, because it's not, like, we should understand that, like...
We're the one who are doing it.
It's not just Chappelle Run. There's probably 100 people behind her who are... It's not just her work, you know what I mean? And for me, like, one of the solutions is like to actually identify the people who work on a song more, and to give visibility to every type of like every step of the creative process. Because why is it that the mixing engineer, nobody knows who he is, but without him, Chappelle Run would not be Chappelle, you know what I mean? And also like there's because I actually like followed this story a lot because it was very interesting to me. So it started off as Chappelle Roan being like, don't harass me and things like that, which I think was very valid and completely understand. The way it was said is like, the thing is, when you're a mainstream artist, you have to be careful how you talk, and you have to get PR involved, because the press they're looking for you to fall. So
you end up headlines,
yeah. And so the second thing that happened and why she canceled the show is because she said there's problems on both sides when she was talking about the vote in the US, right? So Trump and Kamala, she was like, there's problems on both sides, which is completely true. Like I think the same thing, because she's anti-genocide, she's pro-trans issues and stuff, and so she does not want to endorse Kamala, but she's gonna vote for her. But she said, that's the quote, she said, there's problems on both sides. Now, if she had a PR team, the PR team would have told her, this is not a quote that you should be saying. You should find another way to say it. Because the press, what did they do? They took that quote out of context, and then everybody was like, oh, she's going to vote.
Stressed her, and then she canceled the show.
Yeah. But the show she canceled too, and that's another one of my unpopular opinion. It's okay to cancel a show under certain circumstances. Under others, you have to be a professional and actually do the show. It was a festival, so fans are not going to be reimbursed. The fans who bought the tickets for her, and she canceled it like 2 days before. And so the thing is, like, you have a big portion of fans who probably are not crazy people who stalk people in the street and stuff, who paid money, who traveled there, and like a lot of people were like, I'm in the plane right now, like I've spent $1,000 to come see you, and now you're telling me that I'm not gonna see you and I'm not gonna be reimbursed, you know what I mean? So if it's your show, and I don't know, there's different things, but
Actually, I do want to discuss this.
Yeah.
The cancellation thing, because Kenny and I did have a conversation on the side, and I said the problem with that I see is, and Kenny's opinion is she's not going to have any problem of being booked, but if you, as a promoter, as somebody who books people, if you cancel once for a reason, you cancel twice, you cancel 3 times, you stop getting booked. So is that going to hinder her career? Are promoters going to want to stop?
But it's more the people who, because a ticket for a concert is no longer $25. Now that's a luxury good. You're talking about somebody who spent a month of their rent to be able to go see a show. If she cancels once and it's a festival, so you do not get reimbursed, and you have already made the trip, and now you're at a festival where you're watching everybody but the person that you wanted to see, I wouldn't try and risk paying to go see her again after that, because it's a big investment that you're.
And then it becomes a risk to the promoters. Yeah.
Yeah.
However,
I think they're
Kalyssa.
still going to want her to play. It's just that I don't think she is somebody, I think the level that she's kind of crossed into, they still want her because she's still seeking, like she's still climbing. So they'll still look at her as a commodity.
Yeah, but it just needs a better PR team and better. There's a point where like you have to put a separation between you and the public, and I think this is where all the TikTok, like you have to make TikToks, you have to make reels to be a musician and stuff. I think it's hurting the fact that musicians now, they no longer can be musicians. They have to be like public.
No, you're spending your whole day trying to think how to push your name out there. Kalyssa, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, I'm going to play devil's advocate here when you speak about festivals, right? So I think there needs to be accountability on all angles as the fan. If you know you're booking a festival and there's other, sorry, my work computer, and there's other artists that are going to be there, like you're not just going to see that artist. So if you spent your rent money, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? Like I hear your point. Now, if it was a show solely to see that person, and they canceled and you got reimbursed, I think there's different points to it.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, I'm distracted now because my
It's
work
all right.
computer
It's all right. It's a casual show. Okay.
Yeah, I just I'm playing devil's advocate there.
That's it. It's a valid. It's all observations here. There's no. It's not.
I see it from all angles too. I think that there's different things, different levels, and different reasons. And I think Cxsper is right about the PR kind of piece. That there needs to be a stronger kind of approach to that. I have no idea what happened, who's involved, if there's anyone involved, but I think Casper's very right in terms of like some of the things that were said probably could have been phrased differently. But once the cat's out of the bag, then people just they're like snipers. They sit in a tree and they're just waiting for you to do something stupid or bad or wrong or be easily able to take it out of context. They're waiting for it. They salivate because that's a paycheck to them as well in the media.
Very much so, and that's what you have to. I mean, Chappelle is a beautiful person, great artist, fantastic artist, but maybe not ready for. Maybe not. Maybe. I mean, I think that's the question. Are we ever ready? I mean, is it always automatically that you want to become that successful, or maybe it's just not for me? Maybe I just want to sing in my hometown to just a few people and not really do anything bigger than that.
I saw a great article.
Everybody wants to. Fantastic. So we hit on something. Okay.
Sorry, I saw a great article that said maybe she would have been better if she just had stayed queer famous. And those artists who are just famous within the queer realm, who can travel around a lot and be able to do different things, that maybe she should have just stayed gay famous kind of thing, which I thought was very
that's
funny.
an interesting, really. Okay, I would. Well, maybe that's another comment. Okay, Cxsper and Kalyssa, you both jumping to say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, I think whoever really aspires to be that level of famous is a narcissist, straight up. I don't think it's normal.
Yeah, I don't think it should be about the fame. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you do something because you want to be famous, you're not an artist. For me, you're just a narcissist. The thing is, like, all right, this industry has a lot of narcissists, and it's usually people who have a very wrecked view of themselves, and so they need outside validation. If you're doing this and you're looking at your followers and stuff, and you need outside validation, you're not. Either you're going to get there and you're going to be completely broken because you're going to realize that the validation is not actually for you. It's for the image that you're projecting. People don't actually know you. Or you're going to end up like those horrible monsters like P. Diddy, R. Kelly and stuff. And like you want the attention because you know it's going to make you a powerful person and stuff. And nobody gets to that level. And now we're seeing that a lot more. But I'm sorry, all of those mainstream artists who are super famous, none of like, all of them have some type of blood on their hands. You know what I mean? There's every one of them. And now you see things like, even I'm saying like like, you know what I mean? They're all complicit.
To get that famous, you pay some dues of some sort. Yeah.
And they get away with so much, and they have so much secrets, and it's like all the activism they do is like for a tax break. Like it's very, you can see the different artists. Like there's artists who are famous, who everybody knows their music, but nobody knows who they're married to. You know what I mean? For me,
a well-known artist friend, when I first started, she said to me, when I asked her if I should do this, she says, if you're gonna do it for fame or money, just walk away from it, because it's gonna be just chasing something. And I knew that I wasn't doing it for that. Kalyssa, just want to say that before you were going to say something.
I was just gonna actually touch back on something that Blxck Cxsper had said about like being an artist isn't about being an artist anymore. There's this expectation that we have to do TikToks, and like honestly, you see my social media, I barely post now.
Yeah, you're not subscribed.
I used to a lot, daily, like constant, and for other people as well. And it burns you out. It took away from my artistry, and then it made me hate being an artist. And I had to really pull myself out of that social media concept of what is this expectation. And I don't want to be famous. Of course, I want my music to be heard, but for the right reasons, because I want it to reach people and I want it to help people. That's why I started writing music, to help myself. So through that, I want to be able to help people. Sure, I had this dream about wanting to be on the Grammys, but when I sit back and think about it, the type of human I am, I like being home. I like being a hermit. I was going to say,
let's say you wrote a song and everybody heard it and it blew up and you become famous. What would you feel, or what would you do?
I don't know. I can't answer that because I'm not in
And it. That's the question. Are we ever ready for it? Are we ever ready?
I don't think I'd be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And I think I would probably, if I had to answer that question, I
would you walk away from fame? I would probably. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the question is not would I be able to walk away from fame? That's more the question.
I love this. Good question.
Right? Because I mean, once people get a hold of who you are, you can't even walk outside your house. I don't go out anyway, so it really wouldn't affect me.
We're now in a day and age of the do-it-yourself artist as well, where it used to be, in order to kind of go into music or into any kind of entertainment, you had to have a manager, you had to have the
inside. Yeah.
And it's changed so much because, and especially through COVID, because people had to do it on their own. They had to figure things out. And with, Spotify and the online, presence of things, people can do it themselves. That so many artists who were looking to kind of get in and couldn't break in have taken it on themselves. But then you also have this faction of artists who were with management, who have left industry itself and are doing it solo because they don't want to be a part of it. That you now have this almost kind of gray zone where artists are going into it, suddenly getting a lot of attention, but we're never had that industry piece that maybe prepared them better for going into it, right? So they lost that a little bit. So that's also a different kind of imbalance.
That's another angle. Yeah, maybe because people are gaining fame online, they're not prepared for it. Chappelle would be the same thing, right? It's the same story.
She was actually signed previously.
She was.
Okay.
I don't know,
Then
but
she was dropped.
Oh, okay.
And then she just kept working on her own. And then Midwestern Princess took off. She had basically done everything in that album on her own, created everything, put it out.
So it could happen. Okay.
Singles after singles. And then when Red Wine Supernova really kind of hit, she started to gain traction again. And it kind of, came along.
So she did not have any preparation for what could happen.
I don't think so. Not to the extent, because I also don't think that based on the history, I don't think she envisioned that this was going to happen as fast as it did.
Like Madonna set out to be famous. Whitney wanted to be famous. George Michael was signed to a lot of things and wanted to be famous. They were prepared for it. They were pumped by people who taught them what to do. So I don't know. Lots of questions.
There's lots of folks who are in the industry who will help or hinder you. And I mean, I'm sure you folks have experienced it more than I have from an artist standpoint, because I'm not an artist, but I've seen people get pushed and pulled and prodded and told, this is how you do it.
I haven't, but my friend that I just mentioned, again, I'm not going to name her, but she was on a tour and we spoke last week and she says, oh my honey, I'm so tired. All what I felt for like 3 weeks is people pulling at me here. Wake up this time, do this, walk to this. Let's go on this interview. Let's go to this. So yeah, it's I don't know how that would be to have handlers basically pull you and push you in every possible way.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that. And
exactly.
And again, when you speak about the industry, as a vocalist, songwriter, and somebody who is now learning how to mix, I'm dipping my fingers in that because I'm tired of hearing what a song should sound like. I want to hear it the way I want to hear it, not the way like it's my perception. And I've always listened to other producers and I was never satisfied.
Interesting.
And it goes back to the saying, if you want something done right, the way you want it.
You're not talking about Blxck Cxsper because he's fabulous.
No, but again, like I think I'm to the point now. I'm tired of
doing your own thing. I actually like that. Learning the pieces
and really forcing myself to learn how to do my own production and do my own mixing and mastering because I want to hear my vocals as I want to hear them. I don't care what the industry wants. I care what I want. I'm the artist and it's my music. And as an independent artist, that's, I think, what I like to have control of. And that's why I will never sign to a label as well. I won't give up my writing rights. I write my own music. I won't give up that. So why would I sign with the label for? I wouldn't last because I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut either. So.
But it's like from the moment that you are young and you're entering into this, if you're young, it's what you're conditioned to believe, right? That I
should sign with a label.
Yeah, you should want to do this, that you should want to go down this road, that, the magic of it, razzle dazzle, takes over. And again, there are good people that are in there, but I think that they are heavily outweighed by the machine that is industry.
And they target people who are vulnerable too. Like there's, for example, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the world of hip hop a little bit, but there's a lot of artists who, they get picked up by a label, they drop, like they get given a huge, like, you know, the contract is like $1 million or something, and they don't really understand what that means, that it's an advance, right? It's not just we give you $1 million and you can go spend it and whatever. So a lot of people like they get signed and stuff, then there's a lot of pressure that like, well, if you want to look the part, you have to have the cars, you have to have the house, you have to have all that. So they spend that money really fast. Then the music doesn't sell as fast, and so they don't see money from the label, and then they end up going back into the street to, like, you know, and they end up going to prison because they have, you know, they have to like keep up that lifestyle in order to like hope to make money as an artist one day, which nowadays people do not make money as artists anyways. It's over.
unless you become the machine.
Yeah, so the money goes to Spotify and stuff. It doesn't go to the artist anymore. It goes to the big labels. It goes to Spotify. It goes to Ticketmaster and Live Nation. But yeah, so there's like a vicious cycle. So if you're an artist, you have to think about it as a business standpoint. For me, for example, like I've had moments where I've had a team behind me where it's like I just have to show up somewhere and I have people doing everything else. And for me, I love that because I'm autistic. And so everything logistics related, it makes me panic. And so for me, if I have somebody telling me like, okay, you have to eat at that time, get up at that time, go to that interview.
You actually want that?
Because then I know I'm organized, you know, because I want to focus on the creative part. So
fair enough, actually. See, I'm loving all. I think if we have another 20 artists, we probably have 20 different opinions about what every one of them absolutely wants, basically. Yeah.
Very true. All right. I think it's time for us to take a break. So hang on and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the Queer Bunch, friends. We have been talking about fame and what it takes to kind of succeed and all of the pressure that's done to you and being able to kind of push back and say there are boundaries that you need to put in place. So, question to the panel, how much is too much? Kalyssa, go.
I think it really, that's a question that is based, the answer would be based on the individual person themselves. But I think if you think about yourself as a regular person and somebody violating your boundaries, put that into consideration when you are also, you know, looking at someone who is famous. So what's too much for you is going to be too much for them. And I think we need to go back to that when looking at the bigger picture.
Cxsper.
I think if you can't go to the grocery store, it's too much.
I like that.
You know how like
That's a simple answer. I like it.
There's the line right there. There's the line.
I want to shop for groceries without being bothered.
Listen, that's the basic. Michael Jackson had never been into a grocery store, and at some point they rented out a whole grocery store.
Just so you can experience it.
They hired actors to pretend to be shopping.
No way, serious?
Yeah, there's videos of that.
To give him the real experience.
Whoa, like looking at the wall. But yeah, for me, it's not normal. Like I even heard like at some point Justin Bieber was saying that he hadn't gone into a restaurant since he was like a teenager. That's not normal. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. That's actually, I would have never thought of that. Okay, yeah, okay, that would be
to be in a public space and doing your errands and being a, you know, yeah, I don't know, basic.
Well, Antoine, how much is too much for you?
I agree with both. And as I said at the beginning, this I don't know. I'm really new to the art side of things. 4 years is not a lot. So I know fame and fortune is not what's playing for me and what I want to do, but I'd like to create more music. I'd like to create more work with great artists. I'd like to collaborate more. I'd like to perform in interesting spaces with interesting people, but I don't know if I want that scene behind me.
I think that scene behind you is traumatizing. It is.
It would be
just looking at it, it makes my anxiety go through the roof. And
The amount of white
but
men
it,
that
but
deal with
a lot of artists and famous people have to deal with that. So
well, I mean, we are a society who sit on the sidelines and we watch the red carpet, right? We
yeah.
watch as people enter in the red carpet with everybody in their booths, and then you walk up.
Actually, I'm not interested in any of that.
It's
Yeah.
something that again we're kind of conditioned to feel like we should want.
If I read the headline of an article and it alludes to something personal about an artist, I don't read it. Unless the article is about your music or your work, then I'm interested. But if like Jennifer Lopez divorced so and so, people get divorced around the world every day. Why does it matter to me? Kind of thing.
I don't know what my neighbor's marriage is like, let alone somebody else's
Exactly.
paper. I don't.
And
need
I
to
don't
know.
even know. Why would I? I mean, I feel bad for them. They're human beings. I don't hope for anybody to feel misery, whatever. But it's not something that I need to fuss over or bother them to know.
It's
I
not going
would
to
feel-
impact your life any which
Yeah,
way. So
I
why
feel
do
like
you-
that would be uncomfortable. If I okay, what's too much? I think that also would be too much. If I'm get to the part where I'm so famous that everybody wants to know who I'm loving and who I'm like, I think that's too much.
I think too, as a society, we need to stop. You know, we have to realize we spend so much time preaching about mental health and about taking care of ourselves and self-care. And the moment somebody kind of does that, but it disagrees with what our expectation is of them, it's kind of like so what was the point of even preaching that to begin with? You see that in work and job situations where you'll have folks who, and this has nothing to do with fame, it just has everything to do with just double standards and stuff, where they'll say, oh, you should look after yourself. Oh, but you can't come in, but I need you to be in, but you're taking care of yourself, even though I told you that you could, but now I'm going to get upset with you because you're actually doing what I said you should be doing. It's like mixed messages, right?
Yeah. Thank you. This was great.
But I think we should hold like some parts of famous people private life should be disclosed, and we should hold them accountable, like when they do stuff that is like using their power.
No, that's okay. That's like, yeah, as that's what I mean by a story that has to do with something that has to do with conduct. But somebody their child doesn't want to talk to them, or somebody got divorced, or like, I just find it irrelevant.
If your child does, in the case of Elon Musk, for example,
that's a different story. Okay,
child
that's a specific story.
phobic and the child is trans.
Yeah.
No, like
very personal stuff that I have nothing.
Yeah, but I think, because I think there's a level, like, I don't care about like who you're divorcing or who you're marrying. But for example, if you're the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and you're 51, and I see that you just started dating a 19-year-old, I take offense to that. You know what I mean?
my daughter's 19,
I don't know if it
so I
bothers
get
you.
that.
For me, it's like, why is it that those people get away with that? Why is it that, like, you know what I mean? It's like, we want to learn their private life and stuff, and then you learn that and you find, like,
fair enough.
You know, it is like, like Leonardo DiCaprio, who like breaks up with his girlfriends as soon as they hit 25. Like, for me, it's like, we make jokes about that, but like, we need to like look at how these people also influence society, because when you have men that do things like that, and it's not just men. I'm thinking about the president of France and his wife, who was 33 and he was 15 when they met. Why, like, when it comes to famous people, like behaviors like that are accepted almost. And then it kind of like, you have to think about, those people have power over the culture. They are the culture. They dictate how the culture evolves and stuff. And
I think this is a different topic, but let's
that's why. Like,
let's look at that. Let's look actually. I don't mind looking at that topic. People who have influence. Actually, yeah, people who have influence and their responsibility.
Yeah, so it's like you're allowed to have your privacy, but at the same time, people are allowed to also make sure that you're behaving properly.
Cool. That's a good topic.
And to add to that, Antoine, the responsibility of the listeners as well. I know this is not the topic, but just for a future topic.
Yeah.
Like, for example, in the case of P. Diddy and R. Kelly, like, I cannot listen.
I
love R. Kelly's music, but I cannot listen to him because I know it was written about a little girl.
Well,
now to listen to P. Diddy's music, that wipes out my whole 90s. Like,
So Kenny, let's schedule that talk. All right.
It's going on the books.
Let's go on the books. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, this has been an engaging conversation, and I hope that you folks out there who are watching really enjoyed it. By the way, you can always, in the comments section, if you think that there's a topic that we should be discussing, you can use that little keypad and type that right in there so that we kind of know what you want to hear about.
Cool. Well, thank you. From our queer bunch to all of you,